Okay, I'm going to delete this trail game object from the game by right-clicking on trail and hitting delete. I'm going to go ahead and save my scene if you haven't already. Now, a particle collider is a way for particles to interact with colliders around them rather than just pass right through them. So I'm going to go to game object, create other particle system, which creates an ellipsoid particle emitter. Alternatively, you could delete this, create an empty game object, rename it particle system, and hit enter, and then go to component, particles, ellipsoid particle emitter, component, particles, particle animator, and component, particles, particle renderer. And it's the same thing. I'm going to move it in front of my camera. I'm going to make sure that this material in the particle renderer is set to fire add. Okay, so right now, if I change the world velocity of y to -1 and hit enter, the particles move downwards and then they disappear into the terrain. If I wanted to have the particles interact with the terrain somehow, I can make sure particle system is selected, go to component, particles, world particle collider, and then scroll down to that component here. And you can see already the particles are interacting with the terrain and bouncing off of it a little bit. The bounce factor determines how bouncy they are. The higher the number, the more velocity they'll have after they hit the ground. I'm going to change it to 0.2. So they just kind of hit the ground and then roll slowly away. Collision energy loss is how much energy the particle loses when it collides. So if I move this up, energy again is referring not to movement but to lifespan, as it's defined in the particle emitter here. So now when the particles hit the ground, their lifespan is shortened. If you pump this up a lot, they'll almost disappear as soon as they hit the ground. And if you change this to 0, they'll have the same lifespan. If you make it negative, they'll actually have a longer lifespan. Leave that back at 0. Collides with determines which layers it's going to apply to. So if you want it to collide with some layers and not other layers, like if you want it to collide with the ground and not with the player, or with like these LERPS characters, you can just select or deselect those layers from this list here. Send collision message means that when it collides with something like a player, you can send the player script a message. This is if you're going to use particles as a projectile weapon or something. So if you had, say, a particle weapon that had one particle, so it was min and max emission is set to 1, and the size is big, 10, and okay, so now you have this one giant particle that is being emitted. When it collides with the player, you can say, I'm going to send a collision message to the player, and then in the interactivity scripting that you'll learn about later, you can say, oh, this particle just hit me, I'm going to apply damage to my character or to my player. Min kill velocity means that if the particles reach a certain velocity after they collide with something, they'll be destroyed. So if you pump this up, you'll see that there's a certain threshold at which these particles will just destroy themselves once they hit the collider. This is good for waterfalls or any kind of particle system that you want to interact with the environment somehow.